The sensor is the most important part of the camera body. It is also the most vulnerable and easily damaged. On a RED camera, when you want to change out the lens mount or the optical low pass filter, you are exposing that sensor to a world of problems, and therefore I recommend a healthy amount of trepidation. Today, I will teach you how to change these systems safely, as well as what some of the best practices are to keep your camera clean and protected. Swapping out a lens mount or an optical low pass filter on a RED is not a difficult thing to do, but it is worth mentioning two caveats before you proceed. The first being, do not do this without the owner's permission. And the second being, only do this on an as-needed basis. While it is true that RED did design these components to be interchangeable, it is also true that they did not design them to be interchanged every single day. Anytime you swap parts, there's always a chance that the components do not seat correctly into their sockets, thereby causing aberrations on the image itself or the lens elements not speaking to the brain. So anytime you swap components, make sure you test the camera so that everything is functioning as it should be. When swapping out a lens mount or an OLPF, you never want to attempt this with the camera on. You always want to power off the camera. Next, get in as clean of an environment as possible before attempting. Dust is going to be your main enemy here. This is another reason why you want the camera off. As long as the sensor is active, it is a giant electrostatic magnet. Avoid shining bright lights into the sensor while it is exposed. These things are very sensitive to light, and pointing a bright light at close range will run the risk of damaging it. Have proper cases ready for everything. When you swap out parts, be sure to have an appropriate container ready to meet it, to keep it as clean as possible. An immaculate sensor is no better off if you put a dirty component into it. Dust off all parts with an air puffer before and after the swap. Swapping the parts is not hard, but the longer the sensor is exposed, the better the chances are that something gets stuck in a place it shouldn't be. For that reason, work calmly, slowly, and efficiently. This camera is built rugged, but I do not want to be the one to find out its limits. Anytime you resecure a part, make sure you apply appropriate pressure to the screws by not over-torquing them. After swapping a lens mount, if the focal length and the focus marks are not displaying correctly, then this can be a clear indicator that the mount is not seated correctly, provided you are using a lens that is supported by RED. Most of the name brand manufacturers are supported. For example, a Canon-made lens is virtually guaranteed to work on a Canon mount. However, if you're using an obscure third-party manufacturer or some older manual-only lens, you will not be guaranteed to get the focal length, iris, or focus information onto the display. When in doubt, ask questions, check the documentation, and as always, test. The last issue you can run into is the inability to focus your camera. All lenses are designed to operate at a specific flange distance from the sensor. An improperly seated lens mount can throw off this flange distance, thus impairing your lens's ability to focus. So as long as you're getting a nice crisp image along with all the lens information displaying correctly, you should be good to go. OLPF stands for Optical Low Pass Filter. This item was primarily designed to prevent details that are too small from reaching the sensor. Without this filter, straight lines, diagonal lines, as well as fine patterns would be extremely prone to aliasing artifacts. But that is not all an OLPF does. They also protect against infrared and ultraviolet pollution, in addition to affecting highlight roll-off and color rendition. To change an OLPF filter, you first have to remove the lens mount. Then you can remove the filter by first unlocking it and then placing that filter into a clean container. From here, you can take the replacement filter and secure it into position by relocking it, with the last step being to resecure the lens mount. There are three main types of OLPF filters in addition to two specialty models. The standard OLPF is the newest one made by RED. and will therefore offer the best overall performance in a variety of scenarios and/or a run and gun situation. It will be your filter of choice on a lit interior or a cloudy day. The skin tone highlight filter was designed to protect highlights on the skin tone at the cost of low light performance. It is best used on high contrast scenes or outside on a bright sunny day. The low light filter is the opposite. It was designed to work in dimly lit scenarios where you cannot control the lighting. It is also Red's oldest OLPF design, so therefore I recommend you use it the least. The two specialty filters are going to be the IR pass filter as well as the H2O filter, and they do exactly as the name implies. The H2O filter is for filming underwater, while the IR pass filter is designed to allow infrared wavelengths to make it onto the sensor, thus giving the image an otherworldly look and feel. So if you're on a standard shoot, you should not need either of these two specialty filters. After changing the filter, the last thing you will need to do is to make sure the camera is set correctly inside the menu. If you're on a DSMC1 camera, you will need to go to Menu, Settings, Maintenance, OLPF. From this menu, you can set the camera to the correct filter. Failing to do so will lead to an inaccurate color rendition. If you're on a DSMC2 camera, the camera will auto-calibrate once you power it back on, but it's always good to double check. Red cameras offer an amazing amount of adaptability by being able to swap out the lens mount as well as the OLPF filter. And while this is not difficult to do, it should be done with a healthy amount of respect for what can go wrong. And if you are not the owner of the camera, you first need to secure permission before you attempt this, and after completing, you need to test the camera to make sure that everything is functioning properly. Today we took a look at how to swap out the lens mount in addition to the OLPF filter by first powering the camera off, taking everything that we need to a clean room, making sure we have appropriate containers for all the components that we're going to be swapping, dusting off those components before and after the swap, tightening the new components into place by only applying appropriate pressure, and then updating the software in the camera if need be. And lastly, testing the camera to make sure that everything is functioning correctly. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your time.